It will be a mild start to the week though, temperatures not really falling away too much, around the mid-single figures for people waking up first thing on Monday morning. And especially towards the southeast, it will be a pretty dry start first thing as well. We could even see some clearer spells across the south and southwest, as well as the very far southeast of England as well. Do have some patchy rain across Northern Ireland to begin with, but a lot of the more persistent, heavier rain will be across Scotland. You'll see some brighter colours in that rain first thing through the morning. Now that will slowly start to clear as we head towards midday, and it will return to a much more drier picture as we head towards the middle part of Monday. Now it is going to be dry elsewhere as well. There will be a few breaks here and there, especially across South Wales, the southwest and across the eastern coast of the UK there, and maybe a few more breaks up towards the north as well. But it will once again be a mild day to start Monday. Temperatures around sort of 10, 11, possibly even 12 degrees across the very far southeast as well. Now Tuesday is much of the same. There is going to be a bit more in the way of some clouds, so not too many sunny spells here. Maybe just a few more showers across the southwest and a few breaks in that cloud across the northwest of Scotland as well. So it's not all doom and gloom to start the week. But as we head towards Christmas, we do keep hold of that cloud, and as we head towards the big day, temperatures will fall away and it will start to feel a little bit colder.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
This Christmas, we're giving you the chance to win our biggest cash prize of the year. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. And we've come to the fabulously festive Aurora Collection Resort here in Lapland to celebrate. £85,000 of tax-free cash really could be yours.
For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This Christmas, we're inviting you to join the GB News family for an occasion filled with joy. A chance to come together and lift our voices and celebrate what truly brings us closer at this time of year. So whether you're with friends or family or simply in the spirits of the season, we would love to share this special night of carols with you. Carols by candlelight, Christmas Eve at 8 o'clock only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We love Great Britain. We love its history, its culture and its tradition, and that's why we're so proud to be part of GB News.
You look genuinely emotional. Oh, come here.
GB News does pay attention to those who are ignored by the mainstream media, The majority of this country, whose forefathers fought and died to maintain liberty, to fight for freedom of speech.
The rule of law, the rights of property and democracy. This is the heritage that our country should be so proud of.
Which of course includes our Christian heritage. There's been a huge resurgence in the number of people going to church. Perhaps they're not finding what they're looking for, and they're looking for something a bit deeper, a bit more truthful, a bit more akin to Britain's Christian heritage.
That's right, get ready, because the most exciting night in general election history starts now!
Well, good evening. It's 9 o'clock. I'm Alex Armstrong, and it's our last show before Christmas. Here's what's on the show tonight.
We change our plan, not changing the conversation. Change and reform are coming.
Well, I think change is coming because it is, of course, our last show before Christmas. We'll be checking in on the Labour pantomime as ministers are gearing up their leadership bids. And who do you think my panel want as the next Labour Prime Minister? And... Can you believe it? We are 4 days away from Christmas Day. But apparently, singing offensive Christmas lyrics in the pub could be banned for good as Angela Rayner's banter ban comes into force. And another bout of the BBC rewriting British history as yet another ancient history story has been exposed. The first Black Briton turns out to have been Lily White.
I think it's time that we have a change to the law in relation to the firearms legislation in New South Wales.
And 1 week after Bondi's Islamist terror attack, and Australia has toughened its gun laws. Will they have to ban cars and knives next, do you think? Joining me this evening, businessman and activist Adam Brooks, former Labour Minister Bill Rammell, and political commentator Alice Grant. And magazine Vanity Fair is accused of deliberately smearing and humiliating Trump's top team with brutal, unedited close-ups. Trust me, it's a lot worse than you think it is. A huge 2 hours coming up, and your Sunday evening, of course, is just about to get started. But first, let's get your news with the brilliant Bethany Elsey.
Thank you, Alex. Good evening. Your top stories at 2 minutes past 9. Donald Trump and Sir Keir Starmer have held a phone call to discuss the war in Ukraine and the ongoing humanitarian situation in Gaza. The Prime Minister updated the President on work by the Coalition of the Willing to support a just and lasting peace for Ukraine. He also updated Trump on the appointment of the new British ambassador to the US. The United States Coast Guard is actively pursuing another oil tanker in international waters near Venezuela. It's the second operation of its kind this weekend and the third in less than 2 weeks. President Donald Trump ordered a blockade of sanctioned oil tankers entering and leaving Venezuela earlier this week. This third vessel is understood to be flying a false flag to avoid those sanctions. The White House claims illicit oil is being used to fund narco-terrorism in the region. Australia's Prime Minister has been booed at a memorial service for those killed in the Bondi Beach terror attack last week. 15 people were killed and more than 40 injured when 2 gunmen shot into a crowd celebrating the Jewish festival of Hanukkah. Anthony Albanese said the attack was inspired by Islamic State ideology and has launched a review into national intelligence agencies to tackle extremism. More than 800 asylum seekers crossed the English Channel in 13 small boats yesterday. It's the highest number to make the crossing on a single day in December. It brings the total number of arrivals so far this year to more than 41,000. Trail hunting is set to be banned in England and Wales over fears it's being used to cover up the illegal killing of foxes. The practice involves horse riders and dogs following a pre-laid scent. The ban is part of a new animal welfare strategy to be published tomorrow. Trail hunting is already illegal in Scotland but remains legal in Northern Ireland. England's dismal Ashes campaign is over after defeat on the final day of the third test in Adelaide. Australia bowled England out with 82 runs still left to chase and are now 3-0 up in the 5-test series. But captain Ben Stokes says there's still a lot to play for.
Obviously sucks, very disappointing, and knowing now that we can't achieve what we set out to do here is obviously incredibly disappointing. And we've still got 2 games to go in the series. There's still a hell of a lot to play for us as individuals, us as a team. Obviously, walking out there and playing for England is a good enough thing in itself.
And the Met Office says there's a chance of a white Christmas for the first time in 2 years. Most people across the UK can expect a chilly festive period with temperatures reaching no higher than 7 degrees. But for those lucky enough to be on the south coast, they'll see snow flurries, although it's not expected to settle. You're up to date. I'll have more for you at 10 o'clock.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Trust me, we've got a really, really great show lined up for you tonight. And I want to start with this. Who do you think the next Labour Prime Minister is going to be? Is it perhaps David Lammy, the embattled Deputy Prime Minister and Justice Secretary?
Calamity Lammy strikes again. It's a national embarrassment.
Well, despite claiming he's put in the toughest ever measures on prisoner releases, somehow he keeps on losing dangerous felons. Prisoners being released earlier are now at record highs, by the way.
The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
How could we forget Ed Miliband, the ukulele enthusiast and energy secretary who promised a £300 cut to your energy bills, but of course instead bills are rising by at least £100 this year. We also heard spurious rumours today that he's gunning for Rachel Reeves's job as Chancellor. What do you make of that? Well, not him? OK, well, how do you feel about tax extraordinaire, who some might say thinks the rules only apply to some?
There's one rule for them and one rule for all of us.
From working class heroine to owning a luxury seaside apartment, Angela Rayner is seen as Labour's secret weapon. I will admit she's a political chameleon, fitting in wherever she goes, including in a mosque.
My voters were very upset with the Labour Party. I was with you and you saw me over the line. You supported me in seats that are similar to mine. People lost their seat. You were there for me, and I don't believe I could have done that without you.
Well, her publisher says her new memoir will be an empowering vision for a fairer, kinder society that will enable everyone to flourish. It will spark change, they say. Sounds a little bit like a manifesto, doesn't it? Or how about the woman who's meant to be crushing the illegal migrant crisis, Shabana Mahmood?
We're still here at GBNews, where another boat of refugees has arrived over from Turkey, and the layout is that there's a clothes station where they can get some dry clothes, and then there's a medic station, and then there's some food. All of this is being provided primarily by young youth volunteers, and honestly, I take my hat off to them. Some of these people don't have very much.
Yes, well, Shabana Mahmood has undergone a rapid public image shift. Previously an activist aiding illegal migrants entering European countries, she now wants to appear to be the tough medicine that will be solving this illegal migrant crisis. Do you buy it? However, there's another person as well. What about the so-called moderate Health Secretary Wes Streeting, the man that banned puberty blockers?
Cass review made clear that there is not enough evidence about the long-term effects of using puberty blockers to treat gender incongruence to know whether they are safe or beneficial. That evidence should have been established before they were ever prescribed for this purpose.
Ah, well, just last week, Streeting gave the green light for puberty blockers to be used in a medical experiment on children. That doesn't sound like the man who sticks to his word, does it? And finally, there is another dark horse of the competition, little trumpet hater and now deputy leader of the Labour Party, Lucy Powell. Remember when she said this when talking about grooming gangs?
You saw the documentary on Channel 4 about rape gangs over
No,
this
we want to blow that little trumpet now, do we? Yeah, okay.
There is a real issue.
Let's get that dog whistle out, shall we? Yeah.
Well, she was booted out of Keir Starmer's government, only to then come back weeks later as the left wing of the Labour Party installed her as deputy leader. Well, look, if you want my perspective on it, and I don't think this will be a surprise to Bill, who's sitting on my panel, I think the future seems a little bit grim. But Starmer's leadership, let's be honest, is unnoticed, a little bit like some other politicians in the country. And one of those politicians in that cabinet that we've just spoke about is likely to become our next Prime Minister. So, with rumours swirling that they're all gauging support in their party, which one do you think my panel would prefer as the Prime Minister of the country? And talking of my brilliant panel, I am joined by businessman and activist Adam Brooks, former Labour Minister Bill Rammell, and political commentator Alice Grant. Welcome, all of you. Welcome to the show. Last show before Christmas. We've got some pictures here on the desk, and in a few minutes, I'm going to ask the panel to pick the picture of the cabinet member or one of the top Labour politicians they think is going to be Prime Minister. But Adam, I'll start off with you. From you know, all of the so-called little bids that are going on behind closed doors at the moment. I've mentioned quite a raft of Labour cabinet ministers there. Do you think that Keir Starmer's on his last legs?
Yes. I've just wrote a Substack on that, to be honest, and why he's collapsed and why Labour have collapsed. He is the most robotic, soulless Prime Minister that I've ever seen in this country. Has no personality. You cannot warm to him. I failed to even meet a Labour voter that likes Keir Starmer. He's atrocious. He's like, you know, soulless. So look, his days are numbered, and I'm going to tell you why soon. Something that I've heard within the Labour Party. He will be gone. But these pictures of the people in front of me, you know, these horrify me. That any one of these could be the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the best of a bad bunch. It's who's the least dangerous out of a really dangerous bunch. It's really bad, mate. It's really bad.
Alice, what about you? Do you think Keir Starmer's days are numbered, or is this all hyperbole?
Labour are polling on 18%. Reform are on 29%. Reform is a party that was basically built by Nigel Farage in an extremely short space of time. That just shows you how bad the situation is. They can't keep it together. They can't inspire confidence from voters. Keir Starmer, as was pointed out, is simply insipid, doesn't stand for anything. That's not going to attract any votes in the next election. And hopefully, I mean, this is the issue, Alex. Your exposition was just wonderful. I was just sitting there like, what are we going to do? But I really fear for the future of this country. It's already been such a terrible start. It doesn't look promising.
Bill, I'm sure you're going to disagree with all of us here and say it's been going exceptionally well and that the government are... No, but go on. Do you think that the Prime Minister... being realistic, right, and if the Prime Minister was doing a good job, I think it would be very hard for me to sit here and have all these criticisms of him. And I do think the Prime Minister's approval rating is through the floor. He's the most unpopular Prime Minister in history, according to some polling. Is there any chance that next year, if local elections go ahead, he's able to save his job?
Well, I know you don't want me to say this. I actually think he will still be Prime Minister this time next year. And don't believe me or any of us, we're all partisan on this table. True. I was listening yesterday to the Radio 4 Week in Westminster programme. 3 journalists across the political spectrum, every one of them predicted Starmer would still be Prime Minister this time next year. But I would be the first to admit the next 5 to 6 months are critical, and the government has got to deliver. It's got to deliver on the cost of living, and there were lots of measures in the budget to help with that, but people have got to feel it in their pockets. Further progress on reducing NHS waiting times and tackling the small boats crisis, and hugely importantly, a compelling narrative to go with that. And I think that's what's been sadly lacking for the government since it came to power.
Yeah, communication is critical in government. I totally agree. I think the comms have been absolutely horrendous at the bare minimum. Should we go for a little vote? Right, and Bill, I know you think Keir Starmer's going to be around, but I'm going to ask you just to hypothetically say Keir Starmer has resigned. One person out of this group here that you've got, including Angela Rayner, who's not a cabinet minister at the moment, but let's just assume she's coming back because that's what Keir Starmer said. Who are you picking Adam as your Prime Minister?
You said I've got a wild card after, so
yeah, I do.
I'm holding my nose to the, I don't even want to touch these people, right? But look, I'm holding my nose and we're streeting, OK? Because I think out of most of these on here, he's the least dangerous option. If he allows the puberty blockers to go through on children, I think he's going to become public enemy number one. That's my opinion. But I have a wild card, which I'll tell you
after.
We're going to talk about that in a minute. I think this other person will be the Prime Minister within the next 5 months.
OK. Alice, how about you? Who are you picking?
Agreed very much with Adam on anti-puberty blocker West Streeting. However, since you've already cast your vote, I'll have to very shamefully and hesitantly stick up Shabana Mahmood. Let me explain. When she was Lord Chancellor, she did give quite a good speech in Strasbourg in the European Court of Human Rights, basically saying you have overreached your remit, that human rights is now encumbering states from being able to enact decisions in immigration.
OK.
So that rhetoric was very welcome from me. Obviously not doing much practically and absolutely useless as Home Secretary, but I'll go for that speech.
All right, OK, so you've gone for Shabana Mahmood. Bill, who would you pick out of the current bunch I've offered you there?
Lord help me, I'm going to agree with Adam Brooks.
Look, there's one thing this show does very well. We end up finding consensus.
He's agreeing with a far-right grifter.
I don't think there is going to be a change, but if there were, Wes Streeting is by far Labour's best communicator. He talks human. He's got a fantastic backstory in terms of his own life, which is really compelling, and he's a genuine reformer.
Interesting. OK, well, now, look, I'm going to give you the opportunity to pick a wild card, the one that you might not think that you would like, but what you think the Labour Party membership will likely vote for, or who you think is the most likely person to win.
So I have some inside information here from 2 Labour sources. This is an exclusive. That within the next 8 weeks, a Labour MP will be stepping down to make way for a by-election for Andy Burnham. So you heard it here first. A Labour MP is going to step down and Andy Burnham will be running a by-election alongside the May elections.
Interesting.
And for me, that's why he's going to be the next Prime Minister, probably June or July.
OK. Obviously, we can't confirm this, but Adam's pitching his bets on it. We'll look forward to May if those elections happen, and Adam can see if his source was right or wrong. Alice, who do you think the Labour Party membership would vote for?
I think they'd vote for West Streeting.
You think they'd vote for West Streeting,
Yeah, he's probably a bit more normal than the rest. As was explained earlier, but, they're pushing Angela Rayner so hard despite all the absolute
let's have a look. Hold up, Anne. We've got a nice picture of Angela there. It's a lovely picture of Angela. Yeah.
But despite everything that she's messed up on, they're still so intent on publicising her, making her seem approachable. All the media interviews after her tax scandal. So I think they're going to push her quite hard.
Interesting. Well, she's got that memoir coming out. Bill, who do you think the Labour Party membership would vote for as leader?
Well, let me recover my credibility by now disagreeing with Adam.
My sources are better than yours, Bill. You wait.
Yeah, they're genuinely not, and I understand the Labour Party constitution and how it works. It's not going to be Andy Burnham. One, because the National Executive Committee, where Keir Starmer's got a ruling majority, would have to endorse him as a candidate, and that's not going to happen. Secondly, and I say this hesitatingly, it would be a tough ask for Labour to win any by-election at the moment. So it's just not going to happen. In terms of the wild card, I think it is Angela Rayner. I think it's going to be very difficult for her, having resigned from the government or being forced to resign because of her tax affairs. But she is a really compelling politician who connects with people, so she would be the wild card for me.
So I agree with you, Bill. I think it will be Angela Rayner. And I think it will be Angela Rayner for a multitude of reasons, and I'll tell you why now. One, they are desperate. You speak to so many front-bench Labour MPs, they are desperate for a woman to lead their party. They can't keep on going on electing white men. They've said it themselves. Angela Rayner's a woman, if you hadn't noticed. I know they can't always define what a woman is, but we know for sure that Angela Rayner is a woman. Secondly, working-class roots. That sits very, very well with the Labour Party at the moment. And, of course, this famous fallout with Keir Starmer has given her space away from the government, which, obviously, now she is going to be building support in the background while the Cabinet Ministers won't have the privilege of doing that. I think you're going to see Prime Minister Angela Rayner next year. That's my bet to you, Bill.
God help
How about
her.
that?
God help her.
We'll bet on good faith. All right. Listen, we'll talk about Lucy Powell. We played the video of her there. She has apologised on social media for that statement about the grooming gang. She said in this, in the heat of a discussion on any questions, I would like to clarify that I regard issues of child exploitation and grooming with the utmost seriousness. I'm sorry if this was unclear. I was challenging the political point scoring around it, not the issue itself. And as a constituency MP, I've dealt with horrendous cases. This government is acting to get the truth and deliver justice. There you have it. All right, well, look, time now for the Great British Giveaway. And it's your chance to win our biggest cash prize today. It's 85 grand. And Hayley Sparks has been on a magical trip to Lapland. I'm hoping they send me next year, actually. And here's all the details you'll need.
This Christmas, we're giving you the chance to win our biggest cash prize of the year. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to make your new year the best yet. And we've come to the fabulously festive Aurora Collection Resort here in Lapland to celebrate. Imagine what next year could look like for you with a whopping £85,000 in the bank. You could find yourself on the adventure of a lifetime or just safe in the knowledge that next year is on us. £85,000 of tax-free cash really could be yours. Go on, give it a go, and Merry Christmas!
For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 9th of February 2026. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck, everybody. Well, look, coming up, the BBC presented a skeleton as evidence of Britain's earliest black resident. The new DNA test challenged that claim, sparking questions over its historical accuracy. But first,
the British Empire laid the foundations of law, liberty, free speech, and individual rights.
Well, Google has slammed Labour for trying to reduce the visibility of content they deem hurtful. Do you think the government is attacking freedom of speech? We're going to debate that next. This is Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Welcome back, everybody. We were just talking about who your favourite, potential favourite Labour cabinet minister would be for Prime Minister. Let me know what you think, by the way. gbnews.com/your say, and I'll read some of them out throughout the show. But moving on, Google has slammed the government after plans were revealed by Ofcom to prevent potentially illegal content going viral. The tech giant warned the measures could result in illegal content being made less visible, sparking serious concerns over freedom of expression in the UK. And separately, the new Employment Rights Act threatens to introduce what Conservative peer Toby Young called a banter ban. That's obligating employers to create offence-free environments, including banning Christmas songs with problematic lyrics. I wonder which Christmas songs I might be referring to. Well, is free speech continuing to be under threat in the UK? And I'm joined now by two friends of the show, Head of Media at the IEA, Reem Ibrahim, and Human Rights campaigner Peter Tatchell. Lovely to have you both with me this evening. Reem, I'll start with you. It does feel, I think there is a feeling amongst many people, particularly maybe only right sort of leaning folks, that freedom of speech has been more under threat than ever before. But what do you think of these two attacks, I guess, on the Labour government's policy?
Well, I think they're absolutely right. I mean, quite frankly, most of the time when we're talking about freedom of expression, we're talking about the right for people to say what they think without the government interfering. Well, we know that on average in 2023, about 33 people a day were arrested for online speech crimes. It is absolutely horrendous, the current situation that we are in. And what it does mean is that a lot of it is due to legislation that has been on the statute books for many, many years. So things like the Online Communications Act, the Malicious Communications Act, Public Order Act, all of these pieces of legislation. One of them, of course, ultimately meant that Lucy Connolly received a sentence of 31 months for one single post that was only up for 4 hours. So clearly the existing legislation that's already on the statute books can be used by those that want to stifle free speech. Now, what we are seeing is new pieces of legislation adding to that already existing absolutely enormous jungle of legislation, and obviously going to then result in people having their own free speech stifled. So we're talking about the Online Safety Act, which of course means that many tech companies like Google are going to be required to remove content that is in the legal grey area. So the actual term in the legislation is legal but harmful. So speech that perhaps may be legal in the public arena in real life, but online is harmful and therefore requires those tech companies to remove it. That, of course, has huge wide-ranging consequences. It means that even more content is going to be censored online, and it means that many of our opinions will be restricted. Now, what's interesting about the Employment Rights Bill that Toby Young very eloquently pointed out means that what is called the sort of banter ban. Effectively, what it is employees will be able to sue their employers for them being offended in the workplace. So, for example, anything to do with race or sexual orientation or any kind of, many of those Christmas songs that we've mentioned have those kind of jokes in them. And if you are offended, then your employer can then be sued. And so the employer then has to take all of these different risks into account and therefore police what people say in hospitality, in pubs and restaurants, because otherwise they won't be able to open and they will be liable to huge legal costs. So I think that the situation we're in at the moment is already rather abysmal, and we are about to see even more legislation make that worse.
Peter, I'll pass it straight over to you. Particularly want to focus in on that banter ban in pubs, because this is the time of year where people do sing carols and songs, and some of them are a bit old-fashioned and people might be offended by them, but actually, is it just not a case where people just have to get on with it?
Well, there is no banter ban. That's complete fiction. The Employment Rights Act has lots of good things. It bans zero-hour contracts. It gives improved parental and sick pay rights. It protects employees against unfair dismissal. But there is a clause against harassment, not offensive speech, against harassment. Harassment is already against the law, and quite rightly so. Under this legislation, an employer will be obliged to act to protect their employees if they're subjected to racist, anti-Semitic, or sexual harassment. And that is quite right. I don't think any of your listeners would find it acceptable for a black or Jewish employee to be racially abused, sustained over a period of time, and then for the employer to do nothing.
Peter,
So it's quite right that employers have an obligation to protect their employees.
Peter, might I just suggest that perhaps the definition of harassment might need to be quite clear in this legislation? I don't think it is while looking at the bill, because what if someone thinks it's harassing hearing, I don't know, Fairy Tale of New York has some offensive, people might deem offensive lyrics in it, right? Yeah, exactly. It's a great Christmas song, right? Most people wouldn't really be offended, but what if an employee who hears it on repeat again and again and again said, this is harassing me, right? That's a potential case, isn't it, really?
If I can come back on that, the legislation is not intended to cover such instances. But I agree we need to be on our guard to make sure it doesn't. But as of the moment, harassment means repeated. It isn't going to criminalise a one-off throwaway remark. It's only going to tackle sustained, repeated harassment. And it is harassment, not mere offensive language. Offensive language, even if I disagree with it, I'll defend people's right to say it, providing it's lawful. People have a right to say things that other people find disagreeable. I absolutely agree.
If I may.
But in this particular case, it's clamping down on harassment, not mere disagreeable words.
Peter, as you've already said, harassment is already illegal. What this legislation does is it adds an additional layer of responsibility for the employer. So what this does mean in reality, of course, legislation itself doesn't include a banter ban, but we're talking about the real life consequences for many employers, which is that they are liable for enormous legal costs. So if we're talking about going to the pub, listening to a Christmas song, and an employer, a guy behind the bar, is offended by what is being said by people in the pub, they can then be liable. The employer, the person that owns the pub, can then be liable for that harassment, even though it isn't what we may deem harassment. What this is an additional layer of responsibility on the employer, and that is the fundamental problem here. Now, of course, we're talking about this in the context of Christmas, but this is something that occurs throughout the year, and the problem is we already have hugely vague legislation, really, really poorly written legislation, most of which was implemented under the Tony Blair administration. And what that does mean is that we are seeing enormous vague legislation that then is being interpreted by the police in various different ways. So, of course, we have seen people like Graham Linehan, a literal comedian, arrested for his speech. We are seeing people like Lucy Connolly arrested for her speech. But what we are seeing now is the real life consequences of vague legislation. This legislation is also vague. The Online Safety Act is also vague, hence why we're seeing large companies having to remove content that was never intended. The intention isn't there, but the speech ends up getting stifled.
OK, Peter, very brief final response, please, if you don't mind.
The employers, under the law, have a duty to take reasonable steps to prevent harassment. That is perfectly reasonable obligation to place on employers. They have a responsibility towards their staff. I agree, sometimes the law has been overreached, and I condemn that. But when someone calls for burning down asylum hostels and killing asylum seekers and refugees, that is not free speech. That is threats, menacing, and it is against the law, and quite rightly so.
OK, well, listen, both of you, thank you for a hearty debate. That's Reem Ibrahim there and Peter Tatchell. A good pleasure to have both of you on the show this evening. Thank you. Coming up, a poll reveals a majority of British Jews no longer feel safe in the UK. Is it a surprise? Really, unfortunately. But next, a BBC documentary has been found to have misled viewers on the ethnicity of early Britons after new DNA tests challenge their claims. Do you think the BBC is trying to create a false narrative about our history? We'll be getting into that next.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest winter sun forecast. If you're travelling towards the Mediterranean on the lead up of Christmas, it's going to be fairly unsettled for a lot of the area. Some bands of rain really moving eastwards across the Med. Some heavy rain for a time for the Balearics especially, but after a fairly stormy spell down towards the Canaries and Madeira, something a little bit more settled developing here with some spells of sunshine and temperatures for Canaries reaching the low 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a cloudy but wet end to the weekend, but as we go through into Christmas week, things will still remain cloudy, but it will start to turn a little bit colder as we head towards the big day. Now out there at the moment we have this low pressure system out towards the southwest, which is bringing this southeasterly breeze across the UK and that occlusion that is draped across the central swathe, and it is bringing some outbreaks of some rain, which can be pretty heavy, especially across northern England and the Pennines, and some heavy showers across the southwest, so Devon and Cornwall as well by the early hours of the morning. It will be a mild start to the week though, temperatures not really falling away too much, around the mid-single figures for people waking up first thing on Monday morning. And especially towards the southeast, it will be a pretty dry start first thing as well. We could even see some clearer spells across the south and southwest, as well as the very far southeast of England as well. There are some patchy rain across Northern Ireland to begin with, but a lot of the more persistent, heavier rain will be across Scotland. You'll see some brighter colours in that rain first thing through the morning. Now that will slowly start to clear as we head towards midday, and it will return to a much more drier picture as we head towards the middle part of Monday. Now, it is going to be dry elsewhere as well. There will be a few breaks here and there, especially across South Wales, the southwest, and across the eastern coast of the UK there. And maybe a few more breaks up towards the north as well. But it will once again be a mild day to start Monday. Temperatures around sort of 10, 11, possibly even 12 degrees across the very far southeast as well. Now Tuesday is much of the same. There is going to be a bit more in the way of some clouds, so not too many sunny spells here, maybe just a few more showers across the southwest and a few breaks in that cloud across the northwest of Scotland as well. So it's not all doom and gloom to start the week. But as we head towards Christmas, we do keep hold of that cloud, and as we head towards a big day, temperatures will fall away and it will start to feel a little bit colder.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
only on GB News.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, a BBC history documentary is facing renewed scrutiny after new research challenges claims made about British heritage. An ancient skeleton known as the Beachy Head Woman was presented to viewers as evidence that early Britons were indeed black. However, updated DNA sampling and radiocarbon dating now suggests that the interpretation was wrong. The woman, once described as being of sub-Saharan African origin, is now believed to have been white, leaving us wondering why the BBC made the claims with such certainty. So do you believe the BBC is trying to create a false narrative about the ethnicity of early Britons? Well, to talk about this, I'm very grateful to be joined by historian Martin Whittock. Martin, thank you so much for joining me this evening. This was quite a sensational claim when the BBC made this, and it reminded me of a time when the BBC produced horrible histories and that they had these black Romans as well, saying that we were always here and all this stuff. And it was a little bit reminiscent of it. But has this been debunked yet, Martin, or is the science still out?
That's a good question. I think the Beachy Head woman is a reminder of the fact that science is always changing and always subject to review. And that in 2013, and I'm not an expert geneticist, I hasten to add, I can talk about the history of this, they felt quite confident the DNA looked at sub-Saharan Africa. But having then examined it in more critical detail, they've now decided that they're not confident about that at all. But I think rather than see that as kind of like a conspiracy, as it were, it's more the way that science works. Effectively, scientists do things, they test, they come up with a hypothesis, they test it again, and they sometimes change it. So in this case, it does look as if a woman was identified as being sub-Saharan, effectively a black African lady, and it looks like she wasn't. On the other hand, there is evidence that there were sub-Saharan people in Roman Britain. We know 6 people from Leicester have African cranial features. A woman, a 4th century woman from Southwark, showed black African ancestry from her DNA studies as well. But what you would certainly have found is, although you would have found some people who were black Africans, sub-Saharan Africans in Roman Britain, what you would certainly have found was a lot more people who were North African and Syrian. So there were an awful lot of these. So, for example, we know that there were Moorish soldiers from what's now Morocco on Hadrian's Wall. There were Syrian archers on Hadrian's Wall. A man from Palmyra in South Shields buried his wife in South Shields. Not that it was called South Shields then, of course, but he's from Syria. And he's married a local woman from the Catabaloni from Hertfordshire, and he commemorates her. But it's in Palmyran script. Septimius Severus, Rome's first African-born emperor in modern Libya, died here in 211, and we know that there was a Berber from modern Algeria, governor of Britain between 139 and 142. So although there is evidence for sub-Saharan African people within Roman Britain, the evidence is even stronger from my survey of the evidence for North Africa and for Syria. But remember, it was a multicultural empire. People moved right across the empire. So you'd have found German soldiers on Hadrian's Wall, for example. You would have found people from the Balkans on Hadrian's Wall, just as you would have found British soldiers raised in Britain under the Roman Empire and deployed in the Balkans. Because one of the Roman strategies was to raise a regiment and then move it somewhere else. So it wasn't armed troops amongst their locals. So if there were problems in a local area, you wouldn't have armed troops who might sympathise with the locals. So you get Syrian archers on Hadrian's Wall, you get Tigris boatmen from what's now called Iraq on Hadrian's Wall as well, whereas you find British soldiers in the Balkans. So a lot of people are shifting around, Germanics as well, people from Frisia, people from what we now call northwestern Germany. You will find it to be a multicultural empire. Most people will be indigenous, undoubtedly, but you will bump into people again and again who are not from the British Isles. It is a complex situation.
It's absolutely fascinating, Martin. I'd love to have you back on the show at some point because I think there's so much to unpack on this and how we teach history, how the media present history. Absolutely fascinating stuff. Thank you so much for joining me this evening and giving us that incredible account of all of this history. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you, historian Martin Whittock there. I've got my panel back in the studio with me. Adam, I was just talking to Martin then. He was talking about how the Roman Empire was very multicultural and very diverse and how people from all over the world would come to Britain. And I guess it begs the question, maybe perhaps there is, and we're talking about this Black Britain, that's the skeleton that's supposedly been found, and that actually, it's possibly that the skeleton was a white person, not a black person. But it's always the way that the media portray it, isn't it? That's the problem. Of course, I didn't care if some people in Britain were black or Syrian. Who cares, right? Yeah. It's about them saying they were the first people here, and that's what winds people up, I think, because it's such a more varied narrative than that.
It's pandering to the woke idiots out there. No disrespect, there are so many brainwashed students that would love that to have been a black skeleton. You know, what is this pushing? It's anti-white rhetoric that we see from these sort of historians and these universities. And they love playing on that, and I'm glad they've been proven wrong. But I think something that a lot of the audience won't know is that white people are the minority in the world. As of 2025, the UN population data suggests about 10 to 12%. In 1900, the world population of whites was about 25, 30%. So all this anti-white rhetoric a lot of the time, we are the minority in the world. I just don't understand it. It's just virtual signalling and woke nonsense.
Bill, what do you make of it? And as I was saying, it's a very varied picture from what Martin's telling me. It's really fascinating stuff. Yeah. But actually, maybe we get caught up on the smaller bits of information rather than actually trying to tell people the actual full picture.
Well, I think Martin's right. You can go back to Roman times. There were black people here, the Tudors, the Stuarts, and certainly through the slave trade in the 17th to the 19th century, a sizable number of black people coming forcibly to this country. But the big growth in numbers was after the Second World War. However, you know, whatever the colour of your skin, you know, we're all equal and we've all got rights. But in terms of history, I mean, my day job, and I've talked about it on this show before, is Chief Executive of Parallel Histories. And we resource schools in the teaching of contested history. And very often, history is contested. And I think it's really important that kids are exposed and understand both sides of the argument.
Fantastic. Alice, very, very briefly, your thoughts.
Agreed with the discussion about the Roman Empire and the diversity there. My question really is, why did the BBC feel the need to clearly portray something that wasn't quite evidentially based? And if my sneaking suspicion is right, which is that it was to somehow try to, you know, create a narrative that was designed to empower a certain group of people in this country, why do it that way? We have so many incredible Britons in this country who are black, who did incredible things. Mary Seacole in the Crimean War, helping the sick, abolitionists, people who wrote about how to end the slave trade, which we proudly did in this country.
Indeed.
So there is no need to dig up an old skeleton and try to paint some kind of narrative.
Quite literally, isn't it? Quite literally digging up old skeletons. Well, look, we reached out to the BBC and they're not commenting on this issue. Coming up, a new poll has suggested that a majority of British Jews don't feel safe in the UK and have considered the possibility of leaving. Be with us in just a moment. I'm Alex Armstrong, and this is Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes & Co. with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk then? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
This Christmas, we're inviting you to join the GB News family for an occasion filled with joy. A chance to come together and lift our voices and celebrate what truly brings us closer at this time of year. So whether you're with friends or family or simply in the spirits of the season, we would love to share this special night of carols with you. Carols by candlelight, Christmas Eve at 8 o'clock only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Well, it's been 1 week since the devastating shooting in Bondi Beach, Australia, and maybe not so shocking, a new poll suggests a majority of British Jews feel unsafe here in Britain. More than half now believe they don't have a long-term future in the United Kingdom as anti-Semitic attacks and abuse hit record levels. 6 in 10 say they have considered leaving the country altogether, blaming rising hostility, weak policing and a failure by politicians to act following deadly attacks and months of hateful pro-Palestine protests. Well, Jewish leaders warn that anti-Semitism is becoming normalised in Britain and say a community that has lived here for centuries is now questioning whether they still belong here. So, I'm asking, is Britain still safe for Jewish people? Joining me down the line now is writer and broadcaster and commentator Jonathan Sacerdoti. Jonathan, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for joining me this evening. I'd like to start by asking you how you feel about the response of the Australian government. The Prime Minister has toughened gun laws. I've linked toughening gun laws to saying, well, why don't you just ban cars and knives while you're at it? Because obviously you're not really getting to grips with the root cause of the issue. But what's your response to it?
Well, there was a rather dark joke going around last week which said that Australia was toughening up on this by banning Hanukkah. It's a similar sort of idea, I think, because obviously banning guns or getting rid of guns more than they already have in Australia might help. But as you point out, I think the issue is not necessarily the guns. Obviously, that was a large part of it, being able to carry out a shooting like that. But it's actually the Islamist anti-Semitism, the Jew hatred. And I think one of the reasons, perhaps, that the authorities in Australia and the government are so reluctant to talk about that and to do much about that is because actually they've been, one might say, encouraging it over the last couple of years, by which I mean this constant obsession with trying to condemn Israel's actions during its war against jihadist Islamic terrorists in the Gaza Strip and surrounding it from 7 fronts has obviously created an atmosphere and a climate within Australia and similarly around the world, including here in Great Britain, where anti-Semitism and Jew hatred is rising. And I think that the government actions and often police actions or lack of action in relation to all of that has made Jews feel very unsafe, quite rightly, made people realise that there is something of two-tier policing where often you'll find that Jewish people are actually stopped from being visible or doing perfectly legal things around these mass protests, these things that have been called hate marches here in the UK and elsewhere in the world. And I think that's one of the reasons, perhaps, that it's easier for politicians to concentrate on gun control rather than to concentrate on Islamic Jew hatred control.
Indeed. Jonathan, I had a friend text me, Jewish, he's one of my old bosses actually, and he said he was talking about this story and he said, you know, he's scared. He's even thinking about leaving the UK himself. It's a terrible situation to even consider that Jewish people in this country would have to consider leaving to be safe. Where on earth would Jewish people go, first of all? Where would they feel safe in the world? And what can the government do to make Jewish people feel safer in Britain?
Yeah, well, that's an easy one. The place where Jewish people should feel safer is Israel. Now, that might sound counterintuitive to some people because just about 2 years ago, quite a lot of Jewish people were slaughtered there by Muslim terrorists from the Gaza Strip. And indeed, Israel is constantly under fire. But the difference, I think, that many Jewish people who are considering emigration to Israel recognise is that there, at least, it's a country which knows the problem, knows the battle it's in and knows what it's fighting. And I think that when I've talked about Islamic Jew hatred in Australia or here in the UK, it's also worth mentioning that far left, extreme left hatred as well, which has seeped into our Labour government, it's the same in Australia, is a very big part of it as well, whether it's because they have aligned views on Jews or whether it's because there is an element of fear of upsetting a particular part of their electorate, or really there's a whole range of things which are layered on top of each other that's meant that there is this almost collaboration between the far left and the Islamist Jew hatred movements around the world that's making things much worse for Jews, but also much worse really for all Westerners, because these forces are not just set against Jewish people, which they certainly are, but they're also very much set against many of the freedoms that we have in the West, and Jewish people really represent those. In fact, Jewish people and Jewish culture and Jewish law is often at the origin and heart and foundation of many of those liberties that we enjoy. So I think it's important that all of these things should be addressed.
Jonathan Sakadosi, thank you so much for joining me. As ever, a brilliant guest. Thank you for joining me this evening. Next up, magazine Vanity Fair is accused of deliberately smearing and humiliating Trump's top team with brutal, unedited close-ups. Do you think they did it on purpose? I think they did. We've got a massive hour lined up for you next. Stay tuned. This is Alex Armstrong Tonight, and let's get your weather first.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a cloudy but wet end to the weekend, but as we go through into Christmas week, things will still remain cloudy, but it will start to turn a little bit colder as we head towards the big day. Now, out there at the moment, we have this low pressure system out towards the southwest, which is bringing this southeasterly breeze across the UK, and that occlusion that is draped across the central swathe, and it is bringing some outbreaks of some rain, which can be pretty heavy, especially across northern England and the Pennines, and some heavy showers across the southwest, so Devon and Cornwall as well by the early hours of the morning. It will be a mild start to the week though, temperatures not really falling away too much, around the mid-single figures for people waking up first thing on Monday morning. And especially towards the southeast, it will be a pretty dry start first thing as well. We could even see some clearer spells across the south and southwest, as well as the very far southeast of England as well. Do have some patchy rain across Northern Ireland to begin with, but a lot of the more persistent, heavier rain will be across Scotland. You'll see some brighter colours in that rain first thing through the morning. Now that will slowly start to clear as we head towards midday, and it will return to a much more drier picture as we head towards the middle part of Monday. Now, it is going to be dry elsewhere as well. There will be a few breaks here and there, especially across South Wales, the southwest, and across the eastern coast of the UK there. And maybe a few more breaks up towards the north as well. But it will once again be a mild day to start Monday. Temperatures around sort of 10, 11, possibly even 12 degrees across the very far southeast as well. Now, Tuesday is much of the same. There is going to be a bit more in the way of some clouds, so not too many sunny spells here. Maybe just a few more showers across the southwest and a few breaks in that cloud across the northwest of Scotland as well. So it's not all doom and gloom to start the week. But as we head towards Christmas, we do keep hold of that cloud, and as we head towards the big day, temperatures will fall away and it will start to feel a little bit colder.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
A very Merry Christmas to you all from the Aurora Collection Resort in Lapland. We're on an amazing Arctic adventure to celebrate our greatest cash giveaway, a simply stunning £85,000. And this Christmas, we're giving you the chance to win it all. So don't miss out this Christmas.
For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good evening, everybody. It's 10 o'clock. I'm Alex Armstrong. Tonight, it's been a good year for fascism. Well, breaking tonight, Channel 4's Christmas gift to you at home is Jimmy Kimmel's toxic alternative message. Yes, the leftist divisive drivel will ruin a holy day. Well, up next, I'm tearing it apart. Also,
we change our plan, not changing the conversation. Change and reform are coming.
Yeah, well, I certainly think change is coming. It's a Labour pantomime, isn't it, as ministers start their leadership bids. Who do you think on my panel wants the next Labour Prime Minister, should I clarify, to be? And... Now, singing offensive Christmas lyrics in the pub could be banned for good as Rayner's banter ban comes into force.
I think it's time that we have a change to the law in relation to the firearms legislation in New South Wales.
Well, it's 1 week after Bondi Beach's Islamist terror attack, and Australia has toughened its gun laws. Do you think they're going to have to ban knives and cars next? And the front pages are dropping hot off the press. On the front page of The Independent tonight, a huge rise in sex offences by police officers. And in The Guardian, Starmer has no coherent plan for social mobility. And to talk about all these massive stories, my panel here tonight is businessman and activist Adam Brooks, former Labour Minister Bill Rammell, and political commentator Alice Grant. And in other news, magazine Vanity Fair is accused of deliberately smearing and humiliating Trump's top team with these brutal, unedited, close-up photos. It looks a lot worse than it is, trust me. Coming up, a massive 2 hours. Your Sunday evening's just about to get started, but first we're going to get your news with Bethany Elsey.
Alex, thank you. Good evening. Your top stories at 2 minutes past 10. Donald Trump and Sir Keir Starmer have held a phone call to discuss the war in Ukraine and the ongoing humanitarian situation in Gaza. The Prime Minister updated the President on work by the Coalition of the Willing to support a just and lasting peace for Ukraine. He also updated Trump on the appointment of the new British ambassador to the US. The United States Coast Guard is pursuing another oil tanker in international waters near Venezuela. It's the second operation of its kind this weekend and the third in less than 2 weeks. President Donald Trump ordered a blockade of sanctioned oil tankers entering and leaving Venezuela earlier this week. This third vessel, though, is understood to be flying a false flag to avoid those sanctions. The White House claims illicit oil is being used to fund narco-terrorism in the region. Australia's Prime Minister has been booed at a memorial service for those killed in the Bondi Beach terror attack last week. 15 people were killed and more than 40 injured when 2 gunmen shot into a crowd celebrating the Jewish festival of Hanukkah. Anthony Albanese said the attack was inspired by Islamic State ideology and has launched a review into national intelligence agencies to tackle extremism. More than 800 asylum seekers crossed the English Channel in 13 small boats yesterday. It's the highest number to make the crossing on a single day in December. It brings the total number of arrivals so far this year to more than 41,000. Trail hunting is set to be banned in England and Wales over fears it's being used to cover up the illegal killing of foxes. The practice involves horse riders and dogs following a pre-laid scent. The ban is part of a new animal welfare strategy to be published tomorrow. Trail hunting is already illegal in Scotland, but it remains legal in Northern Ireland. England's dismal Ashes campaign is over after defeat on the final day of the third test in Adelaide. Australia bowled England out with 82 runs still left to chase and are now 3-0 up in the 5-test series. Captain Ben Stokes says there's still a lot more to play for.
Obviously sucks, very disappointing, and knowing now that we can't achieve what we set out to do here is obviously incredibly disappointing. And we've still got 2 games to go in the series. There's still a hell of a lot to play for us as individuals, us as a team. Obviously, walking out there and playing for England is, a good enough thing in itself.
And the Met Office says there's a chance of a white Christmas next week. Most people across the UK can expect a chilly festive period with temperatures reaching no higher than 7 degrees. But for those lucky enough to be on the south coast, potential snow flurries would mark the first time snow has fallen on Christmas Day for 2 years, although it's not actually expected to settle. You're up to date. I'll have more for you in an hour's time.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more or visit gbnews.com/truth.
It's been a good year from a fascism perspective. That is the message that will be broadcast into your homes on Christmas Day on Channel 4 for their alternative Christmas message. And who do you think is delivering this little gem? Well, it's none other than Jimmy Kimmel, the disgraced left-wing comedian yanked off American airwaves for spewing vile lies after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Kimmel had the gall to claim the MAGA gang was scrambling to paint Kirk's killer as anything but one of their own, desperate to milk the tragedy for political points. Well, the truth? The murderer was a far-left trans activist, not a MAGA supporter. Kimmel's reckless slander didn't just divide Americans, it misled them. And now, Channel 4, in its infinite wisdom, has invited this peddler of division to lecture British people on Christmas Day. Apparently, he hasn't done enough damage across the pond. This raises serious questions about Channel 4's moral compass, or lack thereof. This isn't a free speech martyr we're talking about here. Kimmel wasn't silenced by Trump's threats or some shadowy cabal. His own network pulled the plug on him for peddling egregious falsehoods. Yet Channel 4 is rolling out the red carpet for him. Another publicly funded broadcaster proving it's more interested in provocation than principle. Well, Kimmel might rant about fascism, but his establishment mind virus will not grasp the real rot. Britain is spiralling into a dystopian nightmare. We've outdone Putin's Russia with the West's highest number of free speech arrests. Hate marches chant for global intifada, a blatant call, in my opinion, to terrorism that's already fuelled attacks on Jews across the West. Local elections? Well, they're being cancelled under flimsy reorganisation excuses. Jury trials and automatic appeals in magistrates' courts, they're on the chopping block too. And the BBC, another taxpayer-funded gem, has been caught doctoring clips of the United States president and skewing Gaza coverage. Labour's Home Office secretly demanded Apple hand over a backdoor to your encrypted iCloud data. And don't forget the government's blatant deception about the nation's finances. And today we also found that the Labour Party chair couldn't clearly deny that the Labour Party wouldn't suspend a general election. So when Kimmel takes the mic for his alternative Christmas message, he better call out the creeping fascism and authoritarianism choking Britain. But don't hold your breath. I won't be. Channel 4's likely banking on him sticking to the script and not exposing their complicity. But what do you really expect, from the broadcaster who let the president of Iran, a country run by Islamist extremists, deliver an alternative Christmas message to? Right, well, let's get the thoughts of my brilliant panel, businessman and activist Adam Brooks, former Labour Minister Bill Rammell, and political commentator Alice Grant. Adam, I will start with you. It's a holy day, you know, and I get the alternative Christmas message is meant to be a bit, you know, here and there, and a bit punchy. But this guy's going to basically say that there's fascism creeping around the West, and he's going to point the finger at Donald Trump. I bet you there's not a single mention of our government as part of that.
When they say alternative, this is basically a left-wing, woke Christmas speech by an American that has got nothing to do with this country.
A corporate liberal is what some of the viewers are calling it.
At the end of the day, though, fascism gets bandied about, you know, and even I get labelled a fascist. What, because I'm protesting against illegal immigrants raping, murdering and preying on our local women and children. I get labelled a fascist because I don't want men in women's spaces and I want women's rights to be protected. Let's remember, Channel 4 is the channel that allowed a trans woman, a man, swing his penis and play the piano on a live TV programme. They're a joke at the end of the day. So I don't take too much here. But when we talk about fascism, you're right. We've got elections being cancelled, jury decisions being taken away in courts. We've got the imprisoning of people for online words. The censoring of the internet for adults under the guise of saving kids. Now, I would say if you look up the term fascism, authoritarianism, which is centralised power with no dissent, Keir Starmer and the Labour Party, militarism, glorification of military conflicts. They're trying to take us into a war with Russia and talking that up. Elitism. Starmer prefers Davos over Westminster. Suppression of opposition. They're trying to get Farage put in prison or silenced whatever they can, however they can. That is a fascist trait. And I say this Labour government is showing more traits of fascism than what this left-wing Channel 4 programme is going to portray.
Bill, I'll pass it over to you.
Well, Jimmy Kimmel wasn't disgraced. He was suspended.
He absolutely was, Bill.
He was
He
not,
absolutely
Alex.
was.
He was suspended after the Trump administration put pressure on the broadcasters to suspend him. He was then reinstated after 5 days.
He peddled dangerous misinformation, Bill. He did. He pointed the finger. No, Bill, come on. I'm not going to let you get away with that.
Right.
There is very well documented what he said. I can read it out for you line by line. He pointed to the MAGA base and said they're one of their own committed this. That is untruthful. The person that's been arrested and is being tried at the moment and is admitted to, by all accounts of the evidence, is a left-wing trans activist. That is not true what he said.
He rightly called out the lies of Trump and J.D. Vance of saying that political violence all comes from the left, where the documented cases in the United States are 90% from the right. He rightly called out the fact that Trump and Vance were milking the tragedy of Charlie Kirk's murder and assassination for their own political ends, and I think he was right to do so. But on the issue of fascism, and look, Channel 4 does have a history with their alternative Christmas messages of having, you know, different figures presenting. On his central allegation of fascism, don't believe me, don't believe Adam, listen to General John Kelly, who was Trump's longest-serving chief of staff during his first term, and he's on the record of saying that Trump meets the definition of fascism.
Absolute nonsense.
Well, sorry, why would General John Kelly work for Donald Trump say that? Because Trump is authoritarian, he's ultra-nationalist, he's dictatorial, and he forcibly suppresses
and what
opposition.
about the things I said about Starmer meeting the criteria of a lot of...
It's not true. It's verbiage. You know, there's a debate to be had about jury trials, and this is about actually bringing speedier justice. That's not a definition of fascism.
I think it's widely accepted that cutting jury trials is not going to solve the crisis in our criminal justice system. That is not because of a small group of people who are called in to exercise our constitutional right to have a say in our justice system. That is widely accepted. So I don't think you can criticise.
Do you know the percentage of jury trials?
It's negligible.
After these changes will be exactly the same in this country as the United States.
Why are they targeting jury trials?
Because we've got a crisis of criminal justice.
That's because of lack of funding. Yeah. That's not... Why target our constitutional right? But anyway, on the subject, as you rightly mentioned, Alex, Christmas Day, we should be celebrating the birth of our Saviour, Jesus Christ. We shouldn't be tuning in to an American who, as you said, was rightly disgraced for saying lies about something which was a tragedy of this year.
It was an exceptionally divisive time as well, and actually quite a dangerous time. And if you remember, it's the same broadcasters, people, and I'm going to read this to you, Bill, because you're wrong. The MAGA, this is what Jimmy Kimmel said that got him pulled off there. The MAGA gang are desperately trying to characterise this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and are doing everything they can to score political points from it. I'm sorry, he's wrong.
I think he was making a broader point that the
he was lying.
Promotes political violence.
It's a lie.
It's not a lie.
It is a lie. It is egregious, and it was done at a time where tensions in America were at boiling point. Yeah. It was irresponsible. Can you imagine if a political figure in this country was assassinated, and I got on air and I started pointing the finger at the Labour Party,
and Trump and Vance
I would be disgraced and pulled off there. Rightfully, GBNews would pull me off there.
Trump and Vance were absolutely using that tragic murder to point the finger at the left.
But they were right, but they're politicians. They are right to call out misjudgments from people who are causing division in their country. You guys call it out. When Elon Musk... Bill, hang on. When Elon Musk got up on stages and has said things that have been egregious to you guys, Labour politicians have called for him to be banned from the country. Liberal Democrats have. The problem is, it's hypocrisy. I don't want anyone to get cancelled over anything, but it was disgraced.
Trump is massively hypocritical over free speech.
But he's an unelected politician. That's the difference.
Trump is now searching people's social media posts for 5 years before they're granted a visa.
To make sure that they're not bringing in hateful ideologies into America.
To find anything that's critical of Trump.
That's not true. That's not being proven. That's very questionable.
Let's just clarify here. The tragedy of Charlie Kirk being shot basically live on TV. We have much of the left laughing and mocking at this tragedy.
People celebrating his death.
You're not online, Bill, you don't know, right? Much of the left laughing and mocking at a family man and a father being shot. Now, you wouldn't see that on the right, and I haven't seen that. And let's just say Jeremy Corbyn was assassinated on TV. I'd be upset for his family. I can't stand him as a politician, right? But unfortunately on the left, we have mask Antifa thugs stopping women's rights rallies, OK? Turning up to anti-immigration things with all their masks and their black uniforms, and the left don't call it out. That is fascism.
Indeed, I would say...
Let's just hear from Alice very briefly.
But exactly as Adam has pointed out, it is so evidently clear that the real issue of extremism isn't on the right this year. It's on the left. Correct. And after Charlie Kirk, a voice for faith, a voice for family, a voice for conservative principles was brutally murdered. I think that just shows you that it's a joke to go on TV to say that the rise of fascism is a problem of the right.
I mean, look,
it is the left.
Back on air, he is broadcasting. He was only off air for a few weeks, and rightfully so after what he said at such a divisive time. And as I said, had I said something like that at a time like this in Britain, I suspect GB News would have pulled me off air and gone, I can't believe you said that on national television and expected there to be no ramifications. But I promise you could go and respond, please.
Right. In terms of social media, Adam, there are nutters on the right and the left who say atrocious things on social media.
Bill, en masse, people were laughing.
No legitimate Labour MP or Labour minister did anything other
I'm not saying government officials.
It was an atrocious assassination.
My thing is
murder.
social media. It's not yours. But we see masses of people on the left laughing at the death of Charlie Kirk, including left-wing commentators.
I think you get people on the left and the right who say and do atrocious things on social media. But the reality of this is, you go back in the years running up to Charlie Kirk's murder, 90% of the assassinations, political assassinations, are from the right. But I'm not going to argue that point. The really disturbing finding is, if you look at the polling evidence, something like 10 to 15% of both Republicans and Democrats think it is legitimate to use political violence. And that needs a nuanced debate and not the kind of polarisation we've seen from Trump.
OK, we've got to leave it there. A Channel 4 spokesperson has said this. Donald Trump's return to the White House and wide-ranging impact on the world has been the story of 2025. And it would be hard to think of a better person to address it than Jimmy Kimmel, who has found himself on the front line of America's battle over free speech. All right, time for the Great British Giveaway now, and it's your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date. It's incredible 85 grand. Hayley Sparks has been to Lapland. Here's all the details.
This Christmas, we're giving you the chance to win our biggest cash prize of the year. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to make your new year the best yet. And we've come to the fabulously festive Aurora Collection Resort here in Lapland to celebrate. Imagine what next year could look like for you with a whopping £85,000 in the bank. You could find yourself on the adventure of a lifetime, or just safe in the knowledge that next year is on us. £85,000 of tax-free cash really could be yours. Go on, give it a go, and Merry Christmas!
For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 9th of February 2026. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck, everybody. Well, coming up, Vanity Fair, you know, the famous magazine. Well, they have done Trump's administration a little bit dirty, sharing abysmal photos of several of their senior figures. Trust me, it's a lot worse than you think it is. That's coming up next. This is Alex Armstrong Tonight.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Well, it's a long time since I've sat in your knee, Santa.
I remember it very well, Ian.
I'm sure you still have the bruises. We'll just shake hands today.
Well, you're a very busy man, so we're very lucky to get to speak to you.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Santa, how come now? It's leading up. How long is there to go?
15 days.
15 days to go. All your little helpers, I presume, are working away. Getting everything ready.
My goodness me. You know, I have so many helpers, of course, not just in the North Pole, but all over the world. People in this country. As a matter of fact, even my friends at British Gas, they have Santa helpers that look just like me. They've been going to people's homes to make sure that the children are happy, as well as fixing their problems with boilers and things.
Well, because things can go wrong, even though it's Christmas Day.
Yes, indeed. That's absolutely true, you know. But listen, I'm here to tell you there's nothing to worry about. The elf helpers, my friends, everybody all over the world that helps Santa, we've got the matter in hand. And this is going to be the most wonderful, magicalest Christmas ever.
Oh, it is. Santa, we've got lots of people getting in touch and they're a bit worried because they don't have a chimney in their house and they're worried about how you're going to get in.
Yes, this one comes up quite a lot, but can I let you in on a little secret? The truth is that many centuries ago, the elves crafted a strange, magical key just for me. Now, this key can fit any lock in the entire world. Chimney or no chimney, I can get into every home that is full of Christmas spirit and the love and giving of Christmas.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to the show, everybody, and a slightly similar theme here because Vanity Fair is quite a famous magazine and online publisher. Well, they were invited into the White House and have since posted close-up photos online of prominent White House figures as a part of a feature on the second Trump administration. Now, these images reveal every single detail. And just to give you a picture here, because Vanity Fair normally has lots of airbrushing, very glamorous, and it's famous for all its fashion shoots and things like that. But you can see every detail. Wrinkles, pores, stray hairs, freckles, you name it. Everything. These are including top figures, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, and others. Just look at the state of some of these pictures. Now, this is taken by, this is the Vice President of the United States, by the way. I cannot believe it. I mean, it's a complete mess, isn't it? And this was taken by photographer Christopher Anderson for Vanity Fair, and it's gone viral for all the wrong reasons, as has this extreme close-up. This is literally what they posted, by the way. And if you look at Caroline Leavitt's lips, you can see where she might have had some work done or whatever it is. But this is the sort of stuff you normally airbrush out for the dignity of the person. And you can tell none of that is done. And they accompanied this picture you're seeing on screen with the phrase next to it, mouthpiece. I don't think that's very glamorous. Well, the shoot has drawn heavy, heavy criticism for appearing to deliberately try and make Trump's inner circle look bad, though photographer Christopher Anderson has defended the work as an attempt to penetrate the theatre of politics. Well, joining me now is US political commentator Toria Brooke. Toria, thank you for joining me. I was quite shocked. My producer Mel sent me these pictures earlier on, and I couldn't believe it because this is not what you'd expect from a magazine like Vanity Fair, which has pretty much made its buck on airbrushing glamorous celebrities, and they seem to have done the White House a little bit dirty here, including some of the captions that followed it.
You know, none of this surprises me because, after all, there's a saying, it says that high school never ends. And Vanity Fair hasn't even covered the most beautiful First Lady in the history of the United States. So none of this is a shock to me. And, you know, if we're going to scrutinize people for maybe getting work done, well, then we might as well just fire the whole mainstream media because, after all, I mean, I think we could pay off our national debt with the amount of work that's been done in this country. So I don't really think it was that revolutionary what this guy did, and maybe that's as his photographer work that he likes close-ups, but I actually think that the way that the Trump administration has handled this speaks volumes to their character, and after all, they're competing with a man who doesn't sleep. So what would you expect from these photographs? Yeah, Toria, just you know, Christopher Anderson has said his portraits reflect his established close-up style and were not digitally manipulated and meant to show political power without polish. Now, I don't know.
I don't know if, of course, his intent was to embarrass any of the subjects. He says it wasn't. He denies it was. I'm just shocked because normally when you see these big magazine spreads of things like this, it's airbrushed, isn't it? That's my understanding. Do you think the people in the pictures would have known there was going to be no editing of those photos?
I highly doubt that they knew, but after all, it's something we can expect because, look, I mean, Susie Wiles even said that the mainstream media heavily hurt Trump in his first administration, or they tried to. And you saw the portrait of Karine Jean-Pierre, which was the previous White House press secretary from Biden's administration. That shoot with Vanity Fair was completely forgiving. It was completely editorial. It looked like they were trying to make her look like a model. So we know that they try to shoot where they can, and we're just going to fight back even harder against their lame attempts at trying to make any of the administration feel bad.
Writer Chris Whipple has said the article was fair and on the record and accurately framed, he says, rejecting claims it was a hit piece. He argues the criticism reflects discomfort with the portrayal, not problems with the reporting. Now, look, when I looked at this post on Instagram, when you swiped next to the picture of Caroline Levitt we just showed there, that very, very shocking close-up of her where you can see every detail of her face, the next phrase used to describe her was mouthpiece in big block capital letters. That would seem like some sort of political posturing at the bare minimum. She is the press secretary, not a mouthpiece. A mouthpiece, in my opinion, is a derogatory term to use for somebody. What do we make of that? Do we think this was a genuine attempt at a hit piece, Toria?
Well, I think that people attack the things that they're most insecure about. And right now, the left is insecure that they are losing the culture war to our administration. So right now, their attack at Caroline Levitt, well, you know what? Caroline Levitt is our mouthpiece. She is America first, and she is a patriot. So, of course, they're going to go after her like that. And I think anybody who can read between the lines can see exactly what they were doing.
And Toria, do you expect to hear anything from the United States president on this topic at all at any point in time?
Well, President Trump loves to write very articulate tweets about people that we know aren't necessarily the best. So I wouldn't be surprised to hear that, but at the same time, he may not even waste his time because, you know what, we have more important things to worry about.
Just one quick question on a slightly different note, if you don't mind, because there's been a bit of a shock celebrity star who's taken a stage at Turning Point USA. That is, of course, I'm going to forget her name now, Nicki Minaj, of course, who has joined Turning Point USA. Are we about to see more celebrities flock to the Republican Party? This could be like the first time I think I must have seen this, particularly a rap star like Nicki Minaj.
You're not trying to make me rap again, are you? I do think that more stars are going to flock to the Republican Party, and it's not about left versus right. It's about us as a collective championing free speech and ideologies, right? Because the left is just trying to shut all of that down despite them claiming to be the party of the people. Well, now we're seeing a gravitation. So I think Nicki Minaj is joining our side.
The front pages have just dropped hot off the press. The Times is reporting this: streeting backs Britain rejoining the customs union. I'm telling you, we are going to be put at another Brexit battle by the next election. The Daily Mail saying an Albanian kingpin smuggling criminals out of the UK. Maybe he's actually managed to get more people out of Britain than the government have. This is Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News.
Can't wait to get in that sea. Lovely and warm. Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest winter sun forecast. If you're travelling towards the Mediterranean on the lead up of Christmas, it's going to be fairly unsettled for a lot of the area. Some bands of rain really moving eastwards across the Med. Some heavy rain for a time for the Balearics especially, but after a fairly stormy spell down towards the Canaries and Madeira, something a little bit more settled developing here with some spells of sunshine and temperatures for Canaries reaching the low 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello there, and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a cloudy but wet end to the weekend, but as we go through into Christmas week, things will still remain cloudy, but it will start to turn a little bit colder as we head towards the big day. Now, out there at the moment, we have this low pressure system out towards the southwest, which is bringing this southeasterly breeze across the UK, and that occlusion that is draped across the central swathe, and it is bringing some outbreaks of some rain, which can be pretty heavy, especially across northern England and the Pennines, and some heavy showers across the southwest, so Devon and Cornwall as well by the early hours of the morning. It will be a mild start to the week though, temperatures not really falling away too much, around the mid-single figures for people waking up first thing on Monday morning. And especially towards the southeast, it will be a pretty dry start first thing as well. We could even see some clearer spells across the south and southwest, as well as the very far southeast of England as well. There are some patchy rain across Northern Ireland to begin with, but a lot of the more persistent, heavier rain will be across Scotland. You'll see some brighter colours in that rain first thing through the morning. Now that will slowly start to clear as we head towards midday, and it will return to a much more drier picture as we head towards the middle part of Monday. Now, it is going to be dry elsewhere as well. There will be a few breaks here and there, especially across South Wales, the southwest, and across the eastern coast of the UK there. And maybe a few more breaks up towards the north as well. But it will once again be a mild day to start Monday. Temperatures around sort of 10, 11, possibly even 12 degrees across the very far southeast as well. Now, Tuesday is much of the same. There is going to be a bit more in the way of some clouds, so not too many sunny spells here. Maybe just a few more showers across the southwest and a few breaks in that cloud across the northwest of Scotland as well. So it's not all doom and gloom to start the week. But as we head towards Christmas, we do keep hold of that cloud, and as we head towards the big day, temperatures will fall away and it will start to feel a little bit colder.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Alex Armstrong tonight. I have got your front pages hot off the press here. Shall we go through them together? The Times, streeting backs Britain rejoining the customs union. The Guardian, Starmer has no coherent plan for social mobility, says key advisor. The Mail, Albanian kingpin smuggling criminals out of the UK. The Independent revealed huge rise in sex offences by police officers. And leading the GBnews.com website tonight, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, is sued after taxpayer-funded civil service officials seen marching in Pride Parade. And also on the bottom right-hand corner, you can just about see it there, Father Christmas is too white and his naughty list needs decolonising, a museum claims. Honestly, it's exhausting being alive these days, isn't it? All right, let's get the thoughts of my panel. Joining me, Adam Brooks, of course, is here, a businessman and activist, former Labour Minister Bill Rammell, and political commentator Alice Grant. All right, look, I think we should start with the front page of the Mail, if we can, here. Albanian kingpin is smuggling criminals out of the UK. Finally, some good news. Someone's doing the job. Bill, I guess criminal migrants are avoiding justice by being smuggled out of the UK. So it's not great news, is it, really? They should be facing justice, but actually they are somehow they're managing to get out of Britain.
Yeah, and it's a criminal gang that's organising that, and it shouldn't be happening because they should face justice. But the key is, once they have been convicted, then they should be deported. Yeah. And the government is really pushing for that to happen.
Alice?
I mean, is it? Is the government pushing for that to happen? I think this story just shows exactly what we all know, which is that we have virtually no control over our borders, whether it's people coming in or people coming out. We have a massive problem in London with Albanian gangs, with drugs, theft.
Yeah.
There is a lot to be said for how our capital city has been completely eroded in its character and in its safety because of unlimited crime. Now, I really cannot understand how this government can claim in any way to be helping or to be doing any justice when they are just allowing criminals to be smuggled out of this of our nation when they should be facing justice in prison.
No, that's true. But Adam, many people will say, do you know what? Thank God. And I know it sounds awful, but they will. A lot of people at home will be thinking, they're doing the job of the government. We just don't. A lot of people, whilst I agree, they should. A lot of these people should be facing prison time here in Britain. Some people just be happy to be rid of them.
But the issue is that they might come back.
No, I understand.
The problem is that things can be smuggled out by a lorry.
that.
They can just as easily come back through a lorry.
I just want safer streets for my son and my two daughters going forward. That's what petrifies me. Now, if an Albanian kingpin is getting rid of the criminals, get rid of more, please. Can we find an Eritrean kingpin, a Pakistani kingpin, and maybe an Afghani kingpin to get rid of all the sort of sex cases that are targeting women and girls as well? That would be great. Let their own communities get rid of the bad ones, and let's get on with, social unity, really.
Bill, the problem I've got with all of this is that whatever way you want to paint it, whether you're relieved that they're out of the country or you're terrified that actually they're avoiding justice or upset about that or angry about that, the message that's sent here is that we're not in control. And that's what people constantly feel, particularly when it comes to our borders, because it's not the fact that they are criminals, it's the fact that they're getting out of Britain. Of course, I welcome the news that less criminals are in the UK, but at the same time, it shouldn't be the case. If the law is the law, they should serve time, but they're managing to avoid it for a fee. It looks like here, I'm just struggling to read it a little bit here, but the Mail says it's a fee of crooks of £2,500 to get out of prison.
Look, the system was broken. Progress is being made, but more needs to be made. Deportations are up significantly. Illegal working raids are up by 2/3, and it will take further time. But undoubtedly, the government, the Home Office need to have a better control on our borders. And actually, in Shabana Mahmood, I think we've got a really impressive Home Secretary who's come forward with probably the most wide-ranging review of the asylum and immigration system that we've seen in a generation, and it needs to deliver.
Let me just counter that. Deportations may be up, removals may be up, but they are not deporting any of these that are coming across on the dinghies. These are the people that are unknown, unchecked, unverified, and that are causing community problems with rapes, sexual assaults, paedophilia, right? These are the people that are coming into this country we know nothing about. You're not deporting them. Labour are deporting people that have overstayed on their visas.
No, some of them are. Some of them are.
Vietnamese, Brazilian bar workers. They're going, not the people coming on the channel.
It's a whole range of categories. But, the deal with France needs to ramp up and needs to bear fruit.
We're at 10,000 in.
We need greater returns agreements across the board. And I actually think, and the government has looked at it, and it needs to get on with it, actually offshore processing, not like Rwanda, which was sending people there permanently, but offshore processing would act as a significant deterrent, and I think we need to do that.
Alice?
Again, I would just point to utter lawlessness. I mean, this is a lack of control. This is the message that's being sent to many countries, which is that you can come here, commit crime, be smuggled out for a fee, you come in for a fee. There is absolutely no police control, there's no law, there's no order, and that is reflected on our streets. When you know that there is no point anymore in reporting a crime when something is stolen.
That's a good point.
The police don't do anything. And, you mention the French agreement. That is utterly useless. The French aren't on our side. They're not going to help us in any way.
Yeah,
we have to be strong on this.
It certainly feels that way, doesn't it?
Extremely strong.
Yeah. And I'll just say that.
And our politicians don't have the courage.
Well, that's another part of it, isn't it? It's a political will. Well, Donald Trump has proven you can fix this crisis, and he's got millions of people to deal with. But look, we've got loads of really good stories in the press tonight, and we're going to cover loads of them throughout the next part of the show. But there's just because it's Christmas and people are getting Christmas spirit, and I just want to lighten the mood a little bit here. Front page of the Daily Mail, the top of the Daily Mail here. I never buy my kids any Christmas presents, and I know they're happier as a result. This might be a good tactic. Bill, have you buy your kids Christmas presents? What do you think?
Of course I do. I mean, OK, there's an argument about showering your kids with too many gifts, you know, is perhaps not the best message. But come on, for Christ's sake, you want to buy your kids presents?
I want to buy my kids any Christmas. Yeah. So I'm a South American mom.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but no, I'm joking. I love you, Mummy. But I have to say that I think there is some moderation, I think, that's needed. You know, you can't always be spoiling your children.
But you get a lot, as a father, you get a lot of pleasure from seeing their faces.
Exactly.
Okay?
I think it is extremely important as well to celebrate the joy of Christmas with presents and gift giving and love, because it is a celebration of love. We are celebrating the birth of Jesus. It is a time for joy, of peace, and of happiness. So do buy your kids Christmas presents.
If you can afford it.
If you can afford
whatever
it.
you can afford, the joy on their faces is unbelievable. And obviously, Santa brings most of them. Wink, wink.
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
they're watching. But yeah, it's great to see kids opening Christmas presents.
Yeah, and of course, we all know Santa is real. It's very important. And I'm hoping, I'm asking Santa to come on my show on Christmas Eve. I know he's going to be very busy, but I'm hoping he can stop by the GB News studio so we can talk to the kids that might be still up. We'll be tracking him here as well. So if you want to tune in, come and join me. 9 o'clock on Christmas Eve. We'll be keeping an eye on him, all right, making sure he's getting to all your presents. But look, coming up, we're going to get stuck into the Telegraph, who are leading with this. Don't call migration a threat, says the EHCR chief. EHRC chief. There's so many abbreviations in there. That is next.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Patrick Christie's Tonight. Weekdays from 9 p.m.
Look, this is winter. It's flu. Flu comes in winter, sure as eggs is eggs. There's nothing particularly special about the virus. It has mutated, but that change has made it able to spread through the community by defeating our existing immunity. But the virus itself remains the same in terms of its clinical impact. So while it's a problem at a community and population level, lots of cases, for people who catch this, it's no worse than normal seasonal flu. It's not like we've got a supercharged flu that makes people much iller. We've got a virus that's spreading better and it's come earlier. So we're seeing it rising up the sort of infectious disease rates faster for this time of year. And there are a number of reasons for that, partly because it is a different virus, it's mutated. We haven't seen this particular strain spread for a couple of years. So population immunity levels are quite low. That's why it's spreading more.
What you said there, very calm, very rational, quite reassuring, to be honest with you, seems very logical, understandable. Earlier today, the BBC decided to do a report that looked a lot like this. Let's play the clip.
The throwback, isn't it? We were used to wearing these a few years ago. Now this is the precaution being taken. Also, people are being told to make sure their hands are clean and that they're not bringing germs into the hospital.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we haven't got time to play it all, but she goes on to, like, you know, use the hand sanitizer. Again, I'm just wondering if it's a little bit fear-mongery.
Well, look, we must take flu seriously because it's a fact that if we tot up the excess mortality in the wintertime, just in the UK, and we attribute a lot of this excess mortality to flu, in an average year, maybe 5,000-6,000 people will lose their lives to flu. And in a bad year, it might be as high as 20,000. So we don't take this lightly. We're not complacent about flu.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This Christmas, we're inviting you to join the GB News family for an occasion filled with joy. A chance to come together and lift our voices and celebrate what truly brings us closer at this time of year. So whether you're with friends or family or simply in the spirits of the season, we would love to share this special night of carols with you. Carols by candlelight, Christmas Eve at 8 o'clock only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Let's return to the front pages. I've got some more here. The Telegraph is saying this. Don't call migration a threat, says EHRC chief. Not to be confused with the EHCR, but there we go. The I paper, thousands face care home eviction amid funding crisis. The Sun, now Bay snubs Andy, and The Express put monsters who are cruel to children on a register. Let me get the thoughts of my panel on this one. I would like to start with the Telegraph, guys. Don't call migration a threat. Now, this is, I'm going to get this right, the Equality and Human Rights Commission this is a new head of Equality's watchdog has attacked those who describe migration as a risk to Britain. Adam.
I don't care who she is. She does not tell me what I can say and what I can't say about asylum seekers when I live in an area where a 14-year-old has been sexually assaulted, where I'm getting sent horrific sex stories that have been committed by asylum seekers every day. No one tells me I can't call that out because it's a problem. And grooming gangs, the official report linked grooming gangs to immigration. Asylum seekers are obviously immigrants. There is a link between the rising crime and immigration in this country, no doubt. So whoever this person is or woman is to say we have to curb our language, nonsense.
Yeah, Miss Stevenson, this is what the Telegraph are reporting, Alice. They're signalling a shift here. Their predecessor, her predecessor had said that warned last year that integration in Britain appeared to be failing. That's quite a different tone because the new head here, she's also saying not to demonise migrants. What do you think?
Well, this is the thing. As Adam was saying, this is the plight of most ordinary British people's experience, which she's dismissing as inappropriate to say. That is so utterly, elitist, quite frankly. She is an apologist and a defender of the Human Rights Act, which has been extremely controversial, not just in its effect, but also among the judiciary, because it gives such a wide scope for allowing appeals to the European Court of Human Rights, which, as we all know, has just meant that we cannot control our borders, because every time we try to deport people, they claim under the Human Rights Act.
Yeah. And
so the issue is that this is just so far removed from the reality of what's happening in our country. We had such protests over this summer over the housing of asylum seekers in hotels, the disruption to local communities, issues over integration. You can't just be telling people what not to say because of your ideological leanings, which happen to be those of a very elite class and just simply do not represent the majority of the British public's experience.
Well said.
Yeah, Bill, this is it's an odd time to be talking about this when the country and even the government has sort of upped its narrative on this about getting tough on illegal migration, getting tough on deportations. But should we, in some respects, I'm kind of not surprised coming from the literally the institution responsible for carrying forward these policies and maintaining the status quo. I'm not surprised to hear it. What do you think?
Well, you can't prescribe the way people describe migration. And I'm actually surprised that she's done this because I think she was a good pick to be the head of the Equalities body. And, her views, for example, on transgender rights would probably receive support on this sofa. And a number of MPs tried to block her appointment because of those views. But you can't prescribe what people describe as a threat. However, in respect of the ECHR, I agree with her. We should remain members of the ECHR. Yes, it needs reform, but if we actually withdrew from the ECHR, it would bluntly make it more difficult to get agreements to deport people with countries that remain members of the ECHR.
Well, firstly, there's no evidence of that because we haven't left, but also leaving the ECHR is now the policy of both the Conservative Party and Reform. What does that suggest, given that Reform is polling on 29%? And Labour, massive apologists for the Human Rights Act of 1998, are polling on 18%.
Yeah.
I think there's a clear divide here in public opinion.
Yeah.
And I think it's increasingly turning towards the Human Rights Act, not because we're not a country that doesn't appreciate and value our rights as citizens and individual liberties. Of course, we are the nation of the Magna Carta. We are pioneers of civil liberties and of individual liberty. The issue here is that we cannot control what's happening on our borders because we are subject to an international, effectively, treaty which limits our ability to do things which are contrary to
Well,
that truth.
Alice, if you look at the polling evidence, a clear majority of British people support membership of the ECHR, and just because the Tory party are following reform down that political cul-de-sac doesn't mean it's right.
Well, look, Nigel Farage has said this. Let me just read out Farage's comments here. He's criticised the new EHRC as comments on comments, and he said, reform believes we should deport terrorists, rapists and serious foreign criminals. The vast majority will agree with me that we must prioritise the rights of British people, whatever their ethnicity.
The majority of British public would agree with that.
Yeah, of course, but this is the issue. The issue is that maybe if you ask a person on the street, do you want to leave the European Convention of Human Rights, they would say no. But polling clearly shows that the overriding issue on voters' minds is immigration. And if we cannot control immigration, if we cannot control our borders because of the Human Rights Act, what's going to have to logically go?
Yeah, we are...
Our membership of the ECHR.
Well, that's it. And we are clearly... It seems to me, and there's another story that... I mean, there's so many good stories tonight we've got to get into, including a really good front page of the Mirror, which we'll talk about shortly. But there's another story pinned with this, which is talking about... Wes Streeting's talking about the customs union, you know? It does seem to me that we're not done with Brexit. We never were we? We've sort of perpetuated this. And when we thought about Brexit, gaining back our sovereignty and, you know, these were all the things that were promised to us, things like the EHRC are very connected to, you know, the European laws, the establishment on this one. And Adam, it feels to me that we're still out of lockstep with the British public might have moved to, when immigration is the top issue in this country.
Let's remember, Keir Starmer tried to get a second referendum. He just wouldn't accept that working-class Brits of this country would dare go against the narrative, would dare go against what the establishment wanted. He couldn't take that. In interviews, he said he prefers Davos over Westminster. He is an elitist. He doesn't work for Britain. He works for the globalisation of Britain.
Look at the evidence. The overwhelming majority of British people, by a margin of something like 61% to 13%, regret leaving the European Union.
All right, listen, thank you very much, guys. I have so many front-page headlines we haven't spoke about yet, and there's going to be loads more coming up next on Alex Armstrong Tonight's Late Edition, but we're going to go and get your weather first. I'll see you in just a tick.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a cloudy but wet end to the weekend, but as we go through into Christmas week, things will still remain cloudy, but it will start to turn a little bit colder as we head towards the big day. Now, out there at the moment, we have this low pressure system out towards the southwest, which is bringing this southeasterly breeze across the UK, and that occlusion that is draped across the central swathe, and it is bringing some outbreaks of some rain, which can be pretty heavy, especially across northern England and the Pennines, and some heavy showers across the southwest, so Devon and Cornwall as well by the early hours of the morning. It will be a mild start to the week though, temperatures not really falling away too much, around the mid-single figures for people waking up first thing on Monday morning. And especially towards the southeast, it will be a pretty dry start first thing as well. We could even see some clearer spells across the south and southwest, as well as the very far southeast of England as well. Do have some patchy rain across Northern Ireland to begin with, but a lot of the more persistent, heavier rain will be across Scotland. You'll see some brighter colours in that rain first thing through the morning. Now that will slowly start to clear as we head towards midday, and it will return to a much more drier picture as we head towards the middle part of Monday. Now, it is going to be dry elsewhere as well. There will be a few breaks here and there, especially across South Wales, the southwest, and across the eastern coast of the UK there. And maybe a few more breaks up towards the north as well. But it will once again be a mild day to start Monday. Temperatures around sort of 10, 11, possibly even 12 degrees across the very far southeast as well. Now, Tuesday is much of the same. There is going to be a bit more in the way of some clouds, so not too many sunny spells here. Maybe just a few more showers across the southwest and a few breaks in that cloud across the northwest of Scotland as well. So it's not all doom and gloom to start the week. But as we head towards Christmas, we do keep hold of that cloud, and as we head towards the big day, temperatures will fall away and it will start to feel a little bit colder.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption.